Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Northamptonshire. All right, let's get underway, everyone. So thank you for joining us today's webinar in our customer network, The Road to Transformational Learning, where we will be expanding on the Go1 vision and roadmap. I'm Emma Bamford from the product marketing team here at Go1. Now, before we start, I would like to cover just a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded. We'll email the link to you after the webinar, and we invite your comments and questions. You'll find the Q&A section on your screen in the bottom panel. And if you can think of a question for the speakers at any point, just type it in there. I'll either pose it to our speakers at the time, or we'll have time at the end for Q&A. Now, if we are unable to go through all the questions today, we'll send the answers through to everyone alongside the recording after the fact. So without further ado, our speakers today are Barnaby Dorfman and Trevor de Vroom. We're pleased to have Barnaby, our Chief Technology Officer, join us today. He brings with him 25 years of experience in the tech industry and is now responsible for leading the product and engineering team here at Go1. Prior to joining Go1, Barnaby had a variety of technology and business leadership roles within various organizations. Early in Barnaby's career, he headed product development for the first version of Amazon.com Marketplace. Trevor heads up our product on the partner side of things, and he's deeply passionate about leading technology change. He has experience across several industries, both public and private, including healthcare, higher education, and startups. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Barnaby to kick things off.
Thanks, Emma. Hello, everybody. Super excited to be here with you today and walk through a bit of what we're going to talk about today. So here's our agenda. I'll start out with a bit of product vision and then get into, Trev will actually give us some updates on our content hub. Then I'll run through some things we're working on in the product itself, ranging from improvements to search, to how we manage learning, and then the actual learning experience. And then we'll shift back to Trev working through some of our integrations, and in particular, the learning and the flow of work, which came up as a really important item for many of you, and close out with some Q&A. So again, thank you for being here with us. If we can go to the next slide. So this next, what we're going to do next is a short video. As I mentioned, I've been in tech for over 25 years, the last about 10 years in the HR space, but more focused on compensation than e-learning. Super excited to be in the e-learning category now. And what I decided to do, though, for my own education was to author a piece of e-learning and to kind of share why I'm excited about this category in the space and why I think it's so relevant in the world today.
What is the Go1 North Star? To reach 1 billion learners. But why? The world has nearly 8 billion people. Almost half have a job. Employment is key to life. Without it, most cannot access the basics. Work also provides a sense of purpose, belonging, and accomplishment. Employment is vital to human existence and happiness. But work is disappearing everywhere. This started over 250 years ago with the Industrial Revolution. Now, software is replacing workers of all kinds faster and faster. This is creating massive displacement globally. The jobs that remain will require more specialized understanding, human creativity, and intellect. So what's the solution? Learning, reskilling, education. Go1, unlock positive potential through a love for learning.
Great, thank you. So that's kind of the big context and why I think the work that all of you do and that we're doing collectively is so important. Um, to really deliver on meeting those needs within the product team, we're focused on three areas, and I'll be going through these in a little more depth, but just as a kind of a bit of a review. The first is really the what I call the find and discover problem. So we have a massive library, over 100,000 courses, um, but actually getting to the thing that's relevant to you and to your learners becomes the challenge when you have so much content. And one insight from kind of early e-commerce days is initially we thought with the power of computers to search rapidly over massive data sets that we could get people to the things that they knew they wanted very quickly to buy. But then we realized that, in fact, people don't know exactly what it is they want to buy, especially when you have a catalog of millions of things, and discover becomes an equally important problem, helping people go through kind of a journey of discovery to find the things that are relevant for them. Then second is just making it easier to manage the process. So in many companies, the main use of our library is really things that are assigned by you, by employers, that are required of employees. And that can become, especially in a larger organization, a quite cumbersome task and quite complicated. And so we're constantly working on simplifying that and making it easier. And then finally, we always want to make the experience for the learner better. And so we can talk about some improvements we're making to the Go1 player and to the learning experience itself. So you could go to the next slide. Um, so now I'm going to hand it over to Trev.
Thanks, Emma. All right, so I want to talk about what we're doing in the Content Hub. So before we talked a little bit about that search and discoverability, and really for us, it's focusing on improving the content experience in a number of ways. The first way we're doing that is really putting a lot of investment in expanding our library. So we have providers like edX coming on with their verified learning track. That will be available over the next 4 weeks. Moving into early next quarter, where we're working with Coursera to bring on 1,300 of their hands-on learning experiences. Beyond that, we're then working with partners like Simply Learn and looking at training and certification pathways, particularly in the digital skills space. And as we talked about that displacement of learners and the changing needs of the world, really looking for providers with new and unique skills to really adapt to the changing needs. Working with partners like Bulletproof Problem Solving, who really focus on that creativity problem solving that's required of workers as we're automating more of the workplace and really using human intellect to drive our differentiation and outcomes as businesses. So as we increase this library, we're also trying to make it easy to make sense of it. So for us, a big focus is around our multi-language support. So that is continuing to expand language offerings with existing and new providers, but also making it much easier to find it, both to search it, to understand it, to find relevant for your region, and then really as a second phase, then looking how we can make that assignment process easier, how we can find relevant learning across multiple geodes where you may be able to get the same learning outcome and quickly identify that piece of courseware will support learners potentially across the UK and of other European countries and languages and achieve the same outcomes for all three. The other thing we're doing with our content is really trying to enrich the way we structure that content and how you can query it and discover. So for us, this is a lot of work around areas like roles and skills and building competency mappings so we can actually quickly and easily help you identify what is the right learning for your learners and help people through a pathway. In that, we're also creating structures to guide people along those pathways in terms of work we're doing with the playlists, which I'll talk a little bit later as well about, and really making it easy to understand the learning outcomes with richer metadata that are more queryable, and you can quickly understand what you're getting. On top of that, we're doing a lot of work on the consistency of the play experience, making sure that the playing experience is traverses between consuming in our LMS to potentially other learning in the flow of work, which I'll talk a bit about later, and making sure a learner can consume it where they want and achieve the same learning outcome and experience. So I'll pass back to Barnaby, who's going to talk to us a little bit about how we're going to use content search and relevance.
Great, thanks, Trev. Yeah, so as Trev mentioned, we're really expanding the library and the database and the information that's kind of on the back end. But along with that, we're making investments to make the front end work better to for that discovery piece. And so what we have here is actually a design that is currently under development and is going to expand on some of the ways in which people can find and again discover things that are relevant for them. So things that we've had for quite some time are these filters, where you can filter down on things that you may be looking for. But on a go forward basis, we're adding things like suggested filters. So as we learn more about what's in the library and go deeper on that, other enhancements will include highlighting things that are highly rated within the results set that came back in this example. It's a search for leadership. So those are some examples of things that we're changing on the front end, and these dimensions of things that you can search on is expanding. Beyond that, one of the ways that we're making it easier to find things is by actually expanding the full index of words that can be searched. And where we're doing that is we're taking the audio that exists in videos, or if it's a pure audio course, and automatically transcribing that into text. Because again, computers are good at searching over massive amounts of text. And so what's going to be possible going forward is that, let's say some obscure concept is talked about for 5-10 minutes in a 2-hour or even a 10-hour course. Before us doing this transcription, you wouldn't be able to find that if you searched for it. But on a go forward basis, you would actually that course would actually be surfaced in your search results. And then finally, the thing that we're doing in this area is actually starting to bring in personalization. So based on past searches, we will change the results that you get relative to another person, because we have a bit of a history. It's more versus being a kind of a one-off query. It's more of a conversation, the kind of thing that you're used to seeing in other areas like online streaming video, where the service providers will pay attention to the movies or TV shows that you've watched in the past and then make recommendations on a go forward basis based on what they know about you and your behaviors. If you go to the next slide. So this next section is just around making it easier to actually manage the process. If you're an L&D manager or an HR generalist who manages learning. And so the first part of this is just, again, recognizing that as organizations grow and or the use of our library grows, the number of tasks and the repetitive tasks involved with actually assigning learning, once you've identified things that you want to, can just be a lot of clicks. And in some areas of the site where you have to kind of go from one screen to another, we're trying to reduce that so you can do things more kind of in on that same screen or in the location where you've made that decision. So in this case, we're making it so that you can do assignments and enroll kind of in one in one click rather than multiple clicks in multiple places. We also know that there's time is a really important element of learning. Maybe everybody in your company has to complete cybersecurity training for ISO certification by a certain date, or for the audit. And so just making it easier for you to manage things in kind of in a calendar-based way. And in the future, we'll make it so that that also can be recurring and automated for things that have to be renewed every year for, say, continuing education, or something, again, that's on an required for an annual audit basis. So that's coming. The stuff that's near term is available now to try out and test in beta. And towards the end of this this webinar, we'll share some information on how you can be in touch with us to join those beta test programs and to be involved with shaping how we develop our products on a go forward basis. If you go to the next slide. So once you've actually assigned and created the learning curriculum, we recognize also that the reporting on it, and again, for those audits or for other needs, and just to make sure that people are getting through the work is also an important task. And so what's here on the left side is a new design we have for managing the learning process. And in this example, we've got over 500 people who are assigned to complete this course. And you can see kind of at a glance where different people are at in their journey on this and who's started and not. And you can just click on each of these sections and it'll refine the results on the right side. Another feature that I like that's new is if your organization is changing or growing quickly, let's say you've assigned this to everybody in the company kind of on day one, and then you've got a group of people who join but weren't assigned. This will kind of just give you a count of the people who still have yet to be assigned the course. So again, a bunch of this is available in beta today, and you can try that out. And then in the future, we're really looking for ways for us to expand into kind of the full arc of learning for individuals. Some of the things that Trev mentioned in terms of learner pathways and kind of evolution throughout their careers. And again, making it easier to manage the whole process in a cyclical way. So if you could go to the next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, we also really are always focused on the experience for the learner. And one of the areas in particular that we're looking into and doing some development work on right now is making sure that accessibility is constantly expanding. We know that people come to work with different abilities in different ways. And so we want to address that as much as we can. And Trev mentioned that we're expanding the amount of localized content, multilingual language content. But beyond that, we think there are some things we can do universally within the library to help people be able to again, access the learning. The first is really just around making sure that all of our courses have captions and transcripts. So that automated work I mentioned to convert the audio to text, we'll be reusing or leveraging to be able to do that. The screenshot here on this that you see on the slide is actually from a course that already has subtitles and a text. And many of the courses from our content providers have that, but we want to make sure that it's there universally. So we're working to expand that across the library. And we can also go the other way for somebody who perhaps is visually impaired. We can go from text to turning that into audio for them to be able to listen. And then being able to do this in many different languages over time. And even we know also that people learn at different speeds. So the ability to slow things down or speed them up, depending on your proficiency with the subject matter or potentially your proficiency with the language that you're watching and listening to it in. So those are a few things that we're focused on in the player itself. And then if we go to the next slide. So this last point is we recognize that so much of learning is in video, and we want to constantly make the video experience better. One element of that is really adapting to the internet connection speed of the learner. And so rather than having videos kind of pause and buffer or stop or skip over things, which are some of the things that can happen if you've got if you're assuming a high-speed connection, we're going to dynamically adjust the quality of the image. And so things, rather than just stopping or buffering, they'll get a little bit fuzzier for people who have slow internet connections. And that's, again, a way of trying to address this global audience and meet people where they're at in terms of their technology. Similarly, we know that the majority of people in the world access the internet via mobile devices and on smaller screens often. So some of the curation work that we've done has been to identify content that will play well on a mobile device in a mobile browser and make that searchable. Over time, we also are exploring native apps and the ability to re-render, if you will, content so that it works better on mobile than maybe it was originally authored to do. And then finally, and this is a little bit out there, but one of the reasons I'm so excited to be joining the e-learning industry and space is I think it's still really very early, and there's a lot of room for innovation, and that emergent technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality are going to get better and better and become more and more accessible at lower price points for the equipment, and really unlock more learning potential than exists today. So we're going to keep our eye on the space and do some smaller experiments and see what we're able to do from an innovation perspective on that. So looks like there's a question in the chat. I'll just kind of jump on that. And I think we're going to do another poll here, but chat said Emma says, my issue with training at present is interactive training really not easy to use, and candidates can't click back into it. For myself, removing them from learning to reassign is impossible, so cumbersome, be easier to manage. Well, on the easier to manage, absolutely, that's a lot of what I was sharing, and we're kind of constantly reviewing those flows and trying to take the clicks out, reduce the number of tasks or steps that are required to do that kind of work, and allow it also to be done in bulk. One of the things that we've realized is we've got kind of, in a lot of cases, a repetitive one-off thing that you have to go through. And often people want to do the same thing for 20, 100 or 500 learners. And so being able to do that kind of with one series of clicks and apply it to all. So thanks for the question.
Well, we're just waiting for those results to come in. I can see Aaron's got another question there. So just regarding that question regarding our UI, we've changed the font, which is amazing and accessible. How we've left our headings and what are we doing there? So yeah, we are progressively uplifting elements of our interface, and that is part of the work we'll be doing over the coming quarters, is really get that consistent design language throughout the application.
That's it. And the results of the polls are in, and we can see their accurate course descriptions being the priority for attendees today, and followed very closely by learning outcomes as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for playing along at home.
All right. Thank you, Em. I'm going to jump in to talk a little bit about learning in the flow, and I see this came out as a theme that people were particularly interested in. So what I'll talk about today is some of the areas that we're really exposing that learning into the flow. So perfect. So the first place I want to talk about is the Microsoft's ecosystem. So a lot of our customers have deep Microsoft presence across their organizations. And for us, we're working very closely with the Microsoft team in a number of different ways. We do currently have our Microsoft Teams application that is available. We're doing a lot of work to improve the accessibility of that, making it more performant and lowering the barrier to entry for our customers. We're also working with Microsoft on their Office 365 suite and really embedding our learning directly into the Office 365 search. So this will allow your customers to be able to search within any of the Office 365 environment and not only receive results from SharePoint, from Teams, from others, but also receive learning results there in the flow of work, and be able to immediately launch those courseware from wherever they are in that ecosystem. We're also doing work with Microsoft on their Microsoft Viva product that's coming up. So we'll learn more about that. That's coming to market late this year, and that will be another option for consumption as one of our embedded connectors available to you. From there, we're also working with Facebook on their Workplace for Facebook platform. So this is now in beta, and we are looking for customers on this. And we'll talk a little bit more about our beta at the end, but for us, throughout this, we're keen to talk to you more and talk with your learners and your staff and learn more about how we can support you and get more feedback on these things as well. So if you do want to be involved, we'll give you links at the end, or please comment in chat. But Workplace for Facebook will be out and allow you to really targeted experiences in that mobile first platform. We're working a lot on Slack now as well. Our Slack integration will be in market in very early next quarter. In that, we're doing things to make it easy to really assign in the flow of work and really create that sharing and culture of learning within the organization, being able to bulk assign some courseware to a channel to the learners in that channel and really use that space as an entry point into the organizational learning. On top of providing those first-party integrations you can use to get started on learning in the flow of work, we're also improving the ability to integrate with our platform. So if you would like to do something very bespoke and unique, or integrate it in your own internal unique platforms, we want to make that easier for you to do and consume our platform in your preferred manner. The way we're doing that right now is doing a lot of work on our developer documentation. So this includes really uplifting those docs, making it very clear and simple on how to get started, and providing really model use cases that you can use to rapidly deploy that content in your preferred learning experience. In that, there's a lot of work in self-service and making it quicker and easier to get started and getting access to that API. With that API available, we also want to make it much quicker for your technical teams to be able to leverage that. So working on really making Lego bricks in terms of components that your technical teams could drop into your various applications in the organization, and expanding what's available for integration, really making that in parity to our LMS. So all the decisions you can make, all the choices you can make and use in our LMS, you should be able to use however you would like throughout your organization. And are really allowing you to tailor that offer and tailor that with endpoints such as our playlist endpoints, content creation endpoints that are launching this month, as well as updates and assignment capabilities. The last part we're working on is on improving our experiences and insights. So a lot of work is being done at the moment on the consistency of our reporting, which we know is key for a lot of our learners in understanding how the organization is progressing and what outcomes are being achieved. In that, we're doing also a lot of work to really enrich that, to understand what are the trends, how are we seeing our organizational change, and what outcomes are those learners achieving? Are we seeing the active learning content turn into improved organizational outcomes? We're also doing some work in our content authoring experience, and this is going to make it much easier for you to bring your content in and blend it with existing Go1 content, or bring it in from your favorite authoring tool. And all of that's going to be wrapped within the insights to learn both about the learner, but also around the consumption of the content. Cool. And the last step is, as I said before, we'd really love to talk to you more. We'd really love to learn more about what matters to you and how we can get more feedback on improving our experiences tailored for yourself and your learners. So we'd love for you to join us in our research group for any feedback you'd like to provide, or if you'd like to participate in the beta programs, you can sign up here and we will reach out to you and talk about how we can bring you into those. Or if there's just some general feedback we can work with you on, understand some of your organizational problems a little better. We'd really love to partner with you in solving these things. So please jump on here and sign up, and we will reach back out to you to talk more. I'll pass back to Emma now.
Thanks, Trev.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions in the Q&A. Say a big thank you to everyone who's joined us today for the webinar. Barnaby and Trevor, thank you for sharing the product vision and roadmap with the group today. And thank you to everyone else for their time. Doesn't look like we have any more questions, so we'll wrap up. Thank you, and we'll send through this recording in due course. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Bye.